to taste, no. D9 and Kalaris.
Oh my god. Oh, thank you very much, Jarrett, on the main stage there. Welcome, guys, to the Intel Extreme Masters Gamescom #4. Jarrett, ever the character.
Oh, that's to taste no. To Day9 and Kalaris. Well, very excited. The start of the round of 16 matches. I know many of you have been watching at home throughout the last 3 days. Many have not. There's only 4 round of 16 matches because the other 4 players are waiting in the quarterfinals already.
Yeah, it's actually kind of weird that it would be considered to be a round of 12. You don't normally see that kind of thing coming from these tournaments, but the way in which the Intel Extreme Masters tournament structure works is that if you're able to place first in your group, you are able to skip that first round of matches, so there's all the incentive in the world to be able to perform really well in those groups.
Yeah, so the 8 players that we're going to be seed battling it out here in the round of 16 will be, of course, Elfi going up against viOLet right now. We have Koss versus MC coming up next. We have Slivko versus Sort of.
Yes.
And the last match is Vortex versus 4GG. And those players will go on to face the 4 first-place players of the group stages: Supernova, Bomber,
MC.
Nerchio, and no, MC was not one of the first.
No, was it not?
It was
sorry.
MVP. There
MVP.
we go.
Sorry.
First player we're going to be looking at is going to be viOLet.
It is indeed. Now, I spoke to viOLet a little bit before these matches actually occurred, and he was a little bit scared of the potentials that Elfi could bring out here. I'm actually not going to say what he was scared of, because currently Elfi does not have his headset on, and as such, I don't want to give away anything between these 2 players. I want it to be as even and fair as possible here.
Yeah.
But, I mean, going into those group stages, viOLet was able to take out the likes of Feast 2-1, who, for all intents and purposes, isn't as crazy as Elfi in PvZ, but still has very, very aggressive builds, very, very well timed out 2-base plays.
I would contend that statement. In fact, Feast, his builds have a lot of really smooth, clean army decision-making, very meticulously thought out, but there's a couple of big chunks missing out of those that I really think Elfi sort of fills in.
Yeah.
But Elfi, I feel like, lacks a lot of the fundamental game sense. We sort of see him get into favorable positions and then, like get his mothership nabbed by an Earl Parasite.
That's true, that's true.
We see some of the I almost want to call it like bumpy play from Elfi, where he'll do these like 2-base all-ins, and then he'll go, oh, I'm losing. Ooh, expand, I'm attack, 3-base all, oh, I'm mothership. There's this sort of back and forth, but Elfi somehow is able to pull wins away from the absolute strongest Zergs out there.
No, you're entirely right. And I think that, for Elfi here, going up against viOLet, viOLet is, a very, very fiery character himself here in PvZ, or ZVP even, however you want to look at it.
Potato.
Exactly. He can bring just so much to the table, and for a long, long time he was extremely aggressive. There's Andrew at the front crowd there, viOLet's manager from CSN, and, he's here rooting along for viOLet as well.
No doubt.
A lot of people here for viOLet.
Yeah, viOLet is very much so the counterattack player. He's the sort of player who if you were giving him like normal game exchange or base trade, he will choose base trade every time. He's so comfortable in those nutty situations. Oh my god, and what a treat. The game's already started. Let's go into it.
Yeah, let's indeed, as we are going to be loading up onto a Daybreak for game #1, guys. There's viOLet. Now, okay, both players will have their headsets on. Now, the one thing I wanted to point out is that viOLet is, he said to me before, he's very, very scared of Elfi's 2-base plays. He's very scared because he says Elfi never takes a third. But I think we actually saw Elfi take a few macro games in PvZ yesterday.
He is starting to change that up, but it's potential that he still would rely on his 2-base style versus viOLet today. In the bottom left corner, hailing from the wonderful country of Finland, coming down south to Germany today, it is going to be Asus ROG's Elfi. I'm really happy with the baritone that my voice is able to convey at this early hour. My vocal cords won't be this relaxed later in the day.
I'm so impressed, honestly. Like, you have a monumental amount of energy right now.
Let me use a little bit of that to introduce our top right player, Kalaris, hailing from everywhere. Canada, America, and Korea all at the same time. It is Azubu's viOLet.
Now, for these players, going into this match. They've never really met each other properly in terms of tournament play, so this is going to be a little bit of a wild card. We have that best of 5 format coming out right now. Yep. And just as a little bit of a disclaimer here, there was a little bit of controversy in the group stages.
A little bit of what, my British friend?
A little controversy as to the positioning of viOLet in the group stages. But we can assure everyone out there that everything has been done by the book here by the Intel Extreme Masters.
Actually, speaking of the by the book notion, each player, before they even play any of their tournament games, are handed a player's handbook. It's something that actually only the players get. That just kind of has like a list of rights, a list of procedures, a list of things to let them know that they can take advantage of. The most notable of which is after every 3 games, ESL requires that they know they have a 10-minute break if they want. They don't have to take it, but they have to be aware that they have that opportunity, because very frequently you'll have leagues that will have all the games packed together, trying to make sure the show flow goes straight through. Obviously a big concern, but ESL says, you know what, the observers can wait, because these players need to have these breaks, these opportunities to sort of stretch their brain muscles in between these intense matches.
It really does allow for that contemplation. Just, you know, sometimes if you're like firing into game after game after game, you can't really thoroughly think about what your opponent's been doing in those opening games. And unless you get completely 3-0 KO'd from there, you can still use that 10 minutes to just reconfigure your mindset and re-evaluate exactly how you're going to be able to deal with the playstyle you've come to grips with in the first 3 games.
We haven't really done too much noting of what's going on in the match, because let's be honest, PvZ basically does one thing as of now. Zerg players take 3 bases, and elfi just briefly needs to check the timing. This hatchery did go down at 4:15. That would indicate that there's going to be no gas possible. elfi throwing down his cybernetics core, I would say at the probably most standard time, 4:40. This Overlord wants to check these 2 geysers. This is really the first sign of anything, I guess I'd say, interesting in the game. This is so normal for both players, and a viOLet is going to see earlier 2 geysers means a 10-minute timing push. Later 2 geysers means either an 8-minute push or a faster third.
And for now, elfi will be able to get away with this initial probe, so he's going to be fine and dandy here. Cannon going to be able to save that probe as well, even if his Zerglings did stray into range. Let's see if there any Chrono Boost gets thrown down on that Warp Gate tech. No doubt we will not see that just yet, as, well, not only does he have no energy to do so, but also, I mean, elfi can quite easily go into a little bit more of a macro mode. And again, like yesterday, we saw elfi actually going for a bit more of a bigger macro game in PvZ, which is something to me that is very, very cool. And ooh, interesting.
Stargate. You know, and this is the big signifier. viOLet. Oh, wait. Oh, no, he's going 2 geysers at once? Ah, this is kind of interesting.
This looks exactly the same as if he throws down a Robo right after, it's going to be that whole Phoenix.
Yeah. I mean, an important concept in the game is that you have to consider everything your opponent could be doing, as opposed to just trying to guess at one of them. And right now, elfi is doing something that really could look like almost anything. The only thing viOLet knows is that there's going to be no attack coming at 8 minutes, so viOLet will likely respond with a fast layer at around 7 minutes for himself.
Now, if viOLet throws in that Overlord, and he's actually been able to do the scouting of his opponent yesterday in the games, he'll see a very, very familiar build. He'll see the Stargate and the Robo going down at specific times, and he'll know that those Phoenix are out there just to be able to couple up with that 2-base kind of Immortal push once it comes after this Phoenix play. Of course, elfi still has options. He could still potentially expand off the back of this, but I would not be surprised in the slightest if he continued this aggression wholeheartedly on this 2-base.
There's the Phoenix popping out right now. elfi getting totally spotted at this point in time, and I will note that this is such an uncommon play to see out of a Protoss nowadays. You just don't really see air, and the large reason is because look at this front entrance. It is very difficult to cover if a bunch of roaches storm in here. The only reasonable way to do it is with a lot of gateway units, and of course, if you're going Phoenix, you don't have a lot of gateway units, so this has sort of been phased out. But elfi does a very smart thing, rushing for this Robo Bay to pop out a quick Immortal, helping him defend against those pushes.
Interestingly enough, he opened with an Observer here to be able to keep an eye on things going on at the front, but I mean, he's going to be able to get scouting information with these Phoenix as well as putting on a little bit of pressure. Do you think that the Observer here is required? Or, I mean, because in essence, the Observer here and the Phoenix are doing pretty much the same job at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is actually an excellent point. They really are doing exactly the same thing. I guess I would imagine that he just wants to do a couple of quick spotting in multiple locations. Like right now, seeing all these Zerglings stream out. Again, viOLet knows either 10-minute push or third at this point. And once he gets the eye on that third base, viOLet's going to know exactly what's up. So this Observer really wants to keep an eye on movement out of the front.
Yep, and for now we have Spore Crawler still going down here to try and keep viOLet in the know. But look at this, viOLet with so many Zerglings here, really zoning his opponent out of potentially taking that third. And he doesn't know about this rising Immortal count just yet, with the Chronos being spent on this Robo facility. And with that third Immortal now on the way here, it looks almost certain that elfi is going to go for that aggressive stance.
Gosh, elfi's doing a great job with his damage. Look at that units lost tab. Ooh, that's so filthy. Look at that, nothing lost. Oh my god, this is so cool. This is like the movie Limitless, where the guy never makes bad bets on stocks. Very complicated reference that only some people will find funny.
I have never seen this movie.
It's very good. It's recently on Netflix.
Fantastic.
Said Sean to people in Germany.
Yeah, we're not too familiar. But anyway, for now, elfi getting moving out here with not too many sentries here. Only 7 in this composition. Normally when you have that 3 Immortal push out, it is like with 12 sentries. But actually the Zergling's going to try and go for a rough fight, but he's already walled off here. Will catch 2 of those Stalkers, and plenty of Zealots warping in there to be able to deal with that.
And elfi now is going to go absolutely bonkerville with his forward pylons. He plants 3, 4, 5 pylons right out in the middle of the map. No problem, no discomfort with doing that. And with this swell of Zealots and these Phoenixes and the Observer, elfi has all 3 big possibilities covered. Counterattack, composition, and of course where he needs to position his own army. So this is really, really nice for elfi.
Oh wow, warping in so many Stalkers there. 8 Stalkers warping in at any given time here for elfi right now. And again, this is what viOLet predicted going into this series. Again, speaking to him before, he was very scared about the 2 base plays of elfi. So he's been gearing himself up for this, preparing for it. And, you know, we'll see if it's going to be able to hold, having that foregone knowledge previously.
Well, it looks like elfi is just maxed out on his ground force, and there is a huge series of force fields instantly putting all the pressure at the front lines. The Spore Crawlers at the front will probably be the first to fall, and then the Phoenixes can step right into action. But look at elfi still crawling forward with a big number of pylons.
3 more Spine Crawlers going down, 26 Zerglings in production, but if elfi is able to establish this position with those fantastic force fields there, he's using the hatchery as a huge force field as well, zoning so much of this army out of viOLet, and this hatchery is under so much threat, Sean.
This is exactly how elfi wins all his games. It's these timing pushes where he really commits, and then his great unit control. Look at that, nabbing all the drones. The Finn elfi, so powerful right now. And the Warp Prism in the main.
Oh, that's going to be a bit brutal here. It will stretch viOLet a little bit thinner than he normally would have been. Right now, that force still gathering so much momentum and speed at that 3rd location. But for now, viOLet has actually transitioned, and he's actually got Pathogen Glands as well as 7 Infestors popping here. So that could actually shut this down. But still, his economy is in a little bit of tatters. 2 base to 2 base is not the position that viOLet wants to be in right now.
Back in the main base for elfi, he's going for the Twilight Council, going for the Robotics Bay. You'll note that at the Forge, we actually see that +1 weapons has gone down, but no +1 armor. elfi, again, doing this thing where he's like, all right, I'm all in. Well, I haven't won yet. All right, time to expand. And kind of this weird stop-and-go mix, but all the Phoenixes in the main get nabbed. A nice pickup for viOLet.
This is literally what viOLet predicted. You know, if he's not able to break the natural or anything like that, he said, well, he'll just go home and expand. I mean, it's a pretty, a foregone conclusion if you actually can't break it and you're not someone who's going to get completely overzealous and just charge in anyway. But viOLet had a really, really good read on this series from the very get-go. I mean, this is only game 1, so we still have that full best of 5 to play out here potentially. But for now, elfi going for that expansion, and he has, again, a really nice transition going on here with those Colossus Blink and Thermal Lance.
You know, I almost feel like elfi is exploiting better than any Protoss lately the fact that Chrono Boost builds up a lot in the mid-game on all your Nexuses. I mean, what he does is he will really commit to economy, chrono like crazy on his probes. And then when he goes for the attack, he really commits to it. Warp Prism in the main, chrono boosting all his gateways to get multiple warping rounds at the front. And then when that attack stops, now he's going mass chrono boost on all these upgrades. So he's just embracing whatever transition state he's in with those chrono boosts. So it's kind of allowing him to do what seems like it shouldn't work for your average Protoss.
The only thing I'm a little worried about, actually, in 1 sec, as viOLet is moving into a position to actually assault here. There's so many infestors right now. Force fields go down to try and slowly zone that army out here. But again, those infestors are very, very scary at this point. But elfi has such a strong army, and he's only 20 supply down, which is not something you will normally see at this point in the game.
viOLet should not be engaging here. viOLet is going to try to go for it. Oh, what a blunder. He's going to pull back immediately and regret that movement forward.
Even catching a few roaches there left off on that ramp. Really nicely done by elfi, taking that little bit of a leap. But all the while, during all this has been going on, elfi hasn't actually produced probes for like 2 or 3 minutes. He's been stuck at around 47 probes for quite a bit now.
Again, I anticipate... Oh, wow. Warping in the main again, just doing a little bit of harassment damage. I anticipate that elfi will just go into mass chronoing on his probes now that the third is done. Again, whatever state he needs to be in, he just chrono boosts to catch up in that regard. And as a result, he has these very odd timings. This 17-minute timing normally happens on a passive Protoss player who hasn't attacked all game long. But this is a player who almost won with a 2-base push earlier.
Yeah, and speaking of timings, the Spire is only just about to be done, and he's going to have 3 Colossus out in just a second. So, I mean, he could quite easily exploit the location of this fourth, I feel. I mean, there's a lot of static defense there, but Zergling, Roach, and these infestors don't do too amazingly against this composition with the 3 Colossus there, as long as he's not able to chain the fungals.
Oh, look at elfi coming down at this perfect angle. He's going to sidestep all of it and get the really wide concave. And while all this is going on, elfi is going crazy with his probe production. An excellent reinforcement maneuver right there. Oh my god, free Colossus. He's going to try to gobble that one up right away. Amazingly, elfi is able to defend it, but with this huge line of spines and all those infestors, just a little more time's needed till those corruptors can pop.
Oh, really nice little chaining of the fungal there on a good portion of the army, but not able to get the full chain off, not able to really kill off anything there. Meanwhile, though, viOLet is actually maxed out. A little bit of Zealot harassment in the main here from elfi. The War Prism ends up dying off to those Corruptors, but they were completely out of position to be able to deal with these Colossus, and now the third base goes down once again.
To put it in perspective, viOLet is a GSL Code S level player, has gotten to the round of 8 multiple times before, and here's elfi slamming his way forward. Does viOLet have enough? Here's the big push. Bunch of fungals land immediately. Massive damage on those Colossus are falling. Oh my god, is viOLet going to pull this off again?
Oh, viOLet with a really, really nice engagement here, but elfi just had no force fields going into this fight, and right now these roaches are going to be able to tear up the rest of elfi. elfi on the back foot here. He needs to retreat very, very quickly, and for now, viOLet taking the victory there.
That is like an impossible play by viOLet. That should not have worked nearly that well, but the 2-2 lings, and like you were saying, you don't just need some force fields, you need a lot of force fields to be able to block off those Zerglings. But elfi down to 57 probes, didn't actually build as many probes as I would have thought.
For now, that mothership on the way here for elfi is getting that Templar Archives as well to be able to go for that kind of mothership to Archon toilet tech here. But again, viOLet for now has 5 Broodlords morphing in. There is still Colossus production going on for elfi, but with him only still relegated to these 3 base, and not even almost, he's got very little saturation, only now just fully saturating that 3rd base. The income tab here looking just a little bit spare for both players, whilst they are still a little bit even.
Yeah, that is true, that it's kind of an awkward economic spot. I mean, this is attempt number 3 at base number 3.
Yeah.
Pretty unusual, to say the least. It's just kind of exciting to see like a really dynamic PvZ, where often we just see the standard veins of play, building up, doesn't work out, Protoss wins, Protoss loses, and these one big battle deciding moments. But right now, after a whole bunch of exchanges, viOLet is now building up the Broodlord army, but he needs more infestors, he needs more corruptors. I mean, even though viOLet is close to max, he doesn't have the right composition to start getting aggressive.
Yeah, and I mean, just coming back to that engagement that we had before for elfi, I mean, not only we were saying he was getting a really good arc there, but because he had no force fields, and even if he did have force fields, he would have to use so many to be able to fully separate out the army there of viOLet. So it would have been really hard regardless. I mean, that position works both ways. It worked well for elfi initially to be able to get a good concave on his opponent, but viOLet in turn got really, really good surface area during that as well.
I'm just so impressed that viOLet was able to hang on. I mean, viOLet lost his 3rd, was even in food. viOLet lost his 3rd again, was even in food, and then still ended up crushing that down. Ooh, a cool decision to go for the Neural Parasite, but for every gas upgrade viOLet gets, that's 1 less infestor. And you must have 6, 7, 8 infestors before you can even consider engaging. And you just don't want quite that many Ling Roach if you want to be going for that true Broodlord Infestor Corruptor army.
Yeah, and viOLet trying to compensate for that potential lack of gas here, going for that 5th as quickly as possible, and he already has those 8 gas geysers pumping and well away to be able to just kind of ramp it up into the later stages of this game. And, you know, I've got to say that viOLet is looking really darn good now. I feel that, you know, this was just his game plan all along, not necessarily to lose his 3rd, that's not part of the game plan, but he always anticipated this being a possibility going up into a game against elfi here, and for now he's looking to max out against the 174 of elfi.
Mothership does have 131 energy on it. It's enough for a single Vortex. And look at this, viOLet knows that he doesn't really want these Ling Roach, so he's positioning them for a really nice counterattack, and I don't know how else to put it, this is just going to work beautifully.
Yeah, this really is, and elfi for now actually just going to try and move down to this 5th location potentially, or even just push up through this central passage here to be able to go towards the 4th or 3rd, but there we go, actually heading over to the 5th just as it finishes. Very, very nicely timed there by elfi, and he will be able to get that free hatch kill, but look at that, the counterattack on the way.
Counterattack stepping into the 3rd base, cannon spot it. elfi's entire army in the worst possible position. elfi, though, is not quite max, does have a little bit of extra supply, but with those roaches there, that's a little bit difficult to deal with, and there's a big battle down in the bottom right. Vortex going down, one Archon getting caught a little bit off guard, but did anything good get into the Vortex? Blink forward, picks off Infestors and Broodlords alike.
A really, really nice fungal growth there, though, to be able to lock those guys down. And even the chain, killing off so many of those stalkers there. So really nice little play there by viOLet. Meanwhile, that counterattack ripping apart the 3rd of elfi here. So this is really elfi's last-ditch effort at this point.
But elfi's starting to make some nice headway with this force, with the Colossus still there. He's starting to take down the Spine Crawlers, but viOLet is dealing some great damage in that unit station. We see that there's really not that many attacking units, but there have just been 100 Zerglings hatched for viOLet, and this may very well be enough. It's all going to come down to the Colossus positioning, a blink back, and oh, the Colossus don't get a good angle. The blink goes right into a fungal growth, and elfi's forces are rapidly dwindling.
Yeah, pulling off the drones here. viOLet knows the position he's in. He just needs to clean this up in order to be able to bring it home. As elfi dwindling here at 40 supply, viOLet going to be in hot pursuit as the roaches batter down his fall. GG!
Oh my god, I don't know how else to put it. viOLet really shouldn't have won that match by normal measures, but he found some crazy good decision making. Counter-attacking, building up just the right mix, not engaging those armies when they were right outside his front door. I mean, that's a hard game for viOLet to have won.
Yeah, that really is. So, I mean, again, going into the series here with the mentality that he had, I think really helps him out so much. Being able to know what elfi is going to do from the very, very get-go. It's clear that viOLet does have a good grasp of the playstyle of elfi here, and for elfi, it's going to be difficult going up against that in the later stages of this series, considering how well viOLet was able to deal with that in game number 1.
God, yeah, that's, you know,